somewhere along the line, in my lifetime, churches did this kind of regularly. They developed young people, spoke into them potential in ministry, and somewhere along the line, it seemed like we lost it. I don't know if you have an opinion about it, but I'm old enough to go, was it really becoming a mega church where we had more money and resources and we thought we could just go microwave and hire already developed talent, ministry talent, and so we just stopped developing? I'm not sure. Do you have an opinion about why did we get, not every church, there's a lot of churches out there doing this well. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I'm wondering, do you have a take on why we went away from this?
Yeah, I think you're spot on with kind of the mega church model. We could buy it. So if we can buy it, let's buy talent, or let's buy that process. And I think the core of that is busyness. And so again, whatever church size you are, you're busy. Sunday is always coming. You've got all these programs and events and ministries, and developing people is slow.
Yes. Well, you said 2 years and my jaw dropped. I was like, there's already some people going, I don't have 2 years. What are you talking about? No, how much money is that going to cost me? And,
Totally. But it's slow. It's doing life. It's walking alongside. I wish it was a microwave option. That would be cool. But I think what we found is it's not. And so again, we'll talk about this. I'm sure we'll get into it, but you've just got to start. You've got to start somewhere and start doing it, because it's a long process to develop these young leaders.
Yeah.
And I think we've gotten busy. So I think that's kind of the core piece it's not developing people isn't as flashy as throwing a big event or a ministry with, this many people were there. It's squishy. And so squishy things don't get as much attention of hey, yeah, this leader is way more self-aware, or this leader can manage details now. That stuff's harder to celebrate and harder to notice. So that would be my hunch.
Yeah, that's really good. Great observations. And I do believe this next era of church, this is residency, and what you all are doing is non-negotiable for any church who's committed to reaching people in their communities and growing through relational evangelism and disciple making. It's a non-negotiable. You have to prioritize and do this going forward, because at the end of the day, when I was an executive pastor years ago, we had never heard of headhunters. I call them headhunters. I probably shouldn't say that. It's probably derogatory. Search firms. Let me say it more better. Search firms like Slingshot and Vanderbilt. I would have never imagined that one day we might pay $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to do a search in a pool that admittedly by those guys is shrinking. They don't have as many candidates that they can go get. They're doing a great job with what they have, but it really is reinforcing a little bit this microwave mentality that I can pay somebody and go find the position. And I'm not guilt tripping anybody that does that. We've done it in my home church a few times. So it's more, I'm trying to hit with our listeners. This is a must. You have to start this. If you're not doing it, if you're doing it, you can't cut it off. You've got to fund it. You've got to give time to it along the way. And I live in Vegas, and I look at Vegas, which most people only see the Strip, but Vegas does this in spades. My daughter plays on a flag football team here in Vegas, and last year one of the graduates went into an electrician apprenticing program. She's already making, as a high school graduate, $90,000 as an apprentice. And will be soon graduated up through their cycle. So anyway, all that, I want to come back to an important topic for a lot of our listeners, and that is, what are you seeing and learning about Gen Z leaders that you could give advice to our listeners on both ends? If you're a boomer or Gen X leader in a church, what would you say to them about, here's what we're learning about Gen Z leaders? And then Gen Z, millennial, what would you say to them? So two topics of the, two sides of the same coin, asking you on your advice.
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say to kind of the older generations, I think Gen Z specifically, I've noticed recently, they're on fire for Jesus and for reaching their peers for Jesus, which
Hmm.
is so incredible. I like walk away from some of my interviews with these young candidates just like, let's go. Like that is so thrilling and exciting. So I
Which
think
may
there's so
that
much,
may be a
yeah.
shock to some of our listeners, like, that they're on
Oh,
fire with relational evangelism, like,
oh, totally. They
hmm,
are. They are. And so that's so encouraging. And they need people to, yeah, to take them under their wing and to show them. I would say again to those older leaders, you can't just show how ministry is done. You also have to tell, and you can't just tell how ministry is done. You also have to show. Those things go
mhm,
hand in hand. And again, it takes time and work. But I think as you're leading those younger leaders, um, don't just assume, well, I told them, like, this is how it should go. No, they need to see you do it too. And same thing. If like, well, they watched me, I thought they figured it out. No, like also tell them. Like both of those I think are really important. Um, and they crave feedback. That's a trend I think I'm sure people have talked about, but it just keeps becoming more and more prevalent. And I think in feedback, there's multiple layers to that. Some of it is affirmation. They want affirmation and they need support. They want you to tell them like, hey, that was great in this piece, but here's where we could grow. Here's where things could be better. So they're hungry for that. So I would say those are just some things to notice, to celebrate about the younger leaders and to notice. And then I would say to Gen Z and to our younger leaders, have patience and you move fast. I think it's taking the older generation's time in proximity with these younger leaders to kind of adjust to that pace, to understand and to celebrate, to value the things that they're bringing to the team, and not to think like, oh, I just don't understand, but just to be patient with the older generations as they get to know you and to glean their wisdom. That was one of my favorite things I got to do on staff. I felt like as a millennial, I kind of could be a bridge for our younger leaders and our more senior leaders and get them in a room together. That's some of my favorite ministry memories, is kind of thinking of, I would do these kind of brain trusts where our pastor of leadership development, who had been the lead pastor for a bunch of years, and young leaders who were on fire, we just got in the room together and talked and asked questions. And so when you can make those bridges to bring people together to learn and grow from each other, that is gold. And I think that's how we're going to grow, to pass on that wisdom, pass on that insight to that generation, and then to learn from them as well.